I have made many videos about the dark web before, but today's story is going to be extremely dangerous, possibly the most terrifying one I have ever covered. This story could break your heart and completely shake you. If you are eating or doing anything that makes you uncomfortable with disturbing content, this is the right time to stop watching. And still, if you want to continue, this all happened in 2018, right when the dark web was starting to gain attention. People were beginning to talk about it, but it had not reached that viral level yet. Around that time, leaked videos started surfacing online, disturbing clips supposedly from the dark web. You may have seen them, masked figures feeding unknown substances to victims, or women locked in rooms, trying to communicate through handwritten notes. These clips spread curiosity like wildfire, especially among young people like me. My name is Nathan. I was a college student, decent in academics and active in sports. I had a friend named Niall. One day at college, he came over, visibly excited. He said he had found something on the dark web and wanted to show me. I was hesitant, but he insisted. He showed me a banner, red in color, with a broken chair at the bottom. Written in black and red text above it were the words, "You are all invited to our party. Be our guest, but please, do not be late. If you are, we will come after you." Below the chair there was a link. At first I thought it was just a creepy gimmick. A prank maybe. But then Niall told me it came from the dark web. My curiosity began to shift into unease. That night, I went home. My older sister Julie was out working late. She had been everything to me. After our parents died when I was in 8th grade, she sacrificed her college life to support mine. She was smart, strong, and the kind of sister who could also be your mother and best friend. The next morning at college, Niall rushed to me and said we should not go to that party. Something about it felt wrong. I agreed. We laughed it off. That Friday night, my friends and I went to a movie. It ended after midnight. I walked home, expecting Julie to be out with her office friends. When I got home, the door did not open, so I used my key. A few minutes later, my phone rang. It was Derek, Julie's boyfriend. He asked me to tell Julie to hurry up. I told him she was not home. He explained Julie had said she would come to a party after finishing work and called him at 12:16 saying she was on her way. That was the last anyone heard from her. He sent me the party invitation. When I opened it, my heart dropped. It was the same banner Niall had shown me. Red background, broken chair, the same message. I called Niall and told him everything. He was terrified. We got on a Zoom call. Niall asked if I still had the link. I did. He told me to download the Tor browser. I followed his instructions and opened the link. The site loaded with a blood-red background and a message at the top. To all the latecomers, this site is for you. Rows of video thumbnails appeared, labeled by timestamps. I clicked the first one. It showed a boy tied to a chair. A chalkboard behind him read 11:22. Two masked men entered, took off his shirt, and carved the numbers into his chest. He screamed. I closed the video in horror, but then the page refreshed. A new video had been uploaded. Its title, 12:16. It was Julie. I wanted to scream. Niall shouted not to click it, but I already had. Julie was unconscious, tied to a chair. Two masked men entered and threw water on her. She woke up terrified and asked where she was. One of them mocked her and sealed her lips with glue. She panicked, her body shaking as tears filled her eyes. The man heated a branding rod until it glowed. Julie began shaking her head, begging with her eyes. They pinned her arm and burned the numbers 12:16 into her skin. She collapsed in pain. The camera zoomed in. One man lifted her head by her hair and whispered, "I think you wanted to say something." He then slid a knife between her, sealed lips and cut. Julie screamed, her face twisted in agony, blood soaking her shirt. I collapsed, crying. I begged them to stop, but the video kept going. Then they brought bolt cutters. They placed her finger between them and whispered, "You should not have been late." Then they pressed. I could not breathe. Suddenly, Niall burst into my room. He smashed my laptop and hugged me tightly as I cried and whispered, "They heard her. 15 minutes later, the police arrived. Niall explained everything. The invitation, the site, the video. The police asked for proof. Niall tried to open the site again, but it was gone. Each time he refreshed, the message read, "You are late. This site no longer exists." Julie was never found. No phone, no body, no trace. Derek said she never made it to the party. The police questioned everyone, but they found nothing. It has been nearly 8 years. Julie never came home. As for me, I was never the same. They admitted me to a mental hospital, where I have remained ever since. The last thing Niall did was post this story online, and before he logged out, he wrote one final warning. Please, no matter how curious you are, never go to the dark web. Some links do not take you somewhere. They take you away. I never thought something as simple as ordering a pizza could ruin my life. But here I am. I'm still waking up in the middle of the night with the taste of that crust on my tongue and the smell of burning flesh in my nose. I do not care if people think I am crazy or making it up. I need to put this out there because if someone else stumbles on that site, maybe they will think twice before they click. It all started during summer break. I was staying with my cousins Zayan and Danielle in a quiet town where nothing ever happened. No clubs, no malls, not even a decent Wi-Fi signal unless you knew where to sit in the house. We were 17, bored out of our minds, and addicted to internet rabbit holes, mostly weird conspiracy videos, ghost story forums, and creepy Reddit threads. Then one night, Zayan suggested we explore the dark web. At first, it was just curiosity. We were not planning anything illegal. I just wanted to see the stuff people whispered about. Hitmen for hire, cursed tapes, secret forums way, figured it was mostly fake. Zayan had managed to get Tor up and running with some guides he found online. And soon we were browsing through directories of strange, sketchy websites. Most links were dead or just plain junk. But then something popped up that none of us could explain. It was a pop-up, full screen, unskippable. The background was pitch black, with crimson red text that read, "Slices of Sin, gourmet pizza from beyond." There was no way to close it. No X button, no back arrow. It just sat there, flashing slightly, with a throbbing red enter button beneath the title. I was about to shut the laptop, but Danielle leaned in, curious. "Let's see what it is," he said. "Dude, it's probably a virus," I warned. But Zayan clicked. The page loaded instantly. It looked like a parody website. A fake menu with weird pizza names like Blood Moon Margarita, Hellfire Sausage, and the forbidden topping. There were no prices, no ingredients listed, just a bold banner under each pizza name. Warning, once you taste it, you'll never forget, nor will you be forgotten. We laughed. Honestly, it was just stupid fun to us. It felt like a Halloween prank. Zayan clicked on the Butcher's Deluxe. A pop-up asked for our delivery address. "No way this works," I said, but Zayan typed in his address anyway. We hit submit. The screen went black. Then a message appeared. "Order confirmed. Your hunger will be satisfied shortly." We closed the laptop and started joking about how creepy it would be if someone actually showed up. 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 20. We were about to forget the whole thing when someone knocked on the front door. We froze. It was almost midnight. No one should have been out there. Zayan went to check the peephole and swore under his breath. "There's a guy, holding a pizza." We all rushed over. Sure enough, standing on the porch was a man in his late 40s, tall and thin with waxy skin and slick black hair. He wore a faded delivery uniform with a logo that matched the website's design, dripping red letters that looked like they were melting. His smile was too wide, too forced. "Delivery for Zayan," he said, holding out a steaming box. "No payment, no tip." He just nodded and turned, disappearing into the dark like he had never been there. We brought the box inside and opened it on the kitchen counter. The smell hit us instantly intoxicating. It was the richest, most mouth-watering aroma I had ever smelled. The cheese was perfectly melted, and the toppings glistening like they had been plucked from some gourmet, a cookbook. I hesitated, but Daniel grabbed a slice and bit in. His eyes rolled back. "Holy crap," he mumbled through a mouthful. "This is insane." Zayan and I followed. I wish I could describe it. The crust was buttery and crispy. The sauce had a tang that danced on your tongue. Every bite was perfection. We ate the whole thing in minutes. Not a single crumb left. We sat in silence after, overwhelmed by how good it was. We should have known something was wrong. Nothing is ever that good. Half an hour later, there was another knock. The same man stood outside, holding a small white box. "Complimentary dessert," he said softly, "for such enthusiastic eaters." Before we could respond, he placed the box on the ground and walked away. Inside were 3 cookies. They looked homemade-oft, gooey centers, perfectly round. We should have thrown them out. We didn't. Daniel bit in without hesitation. Zayan followed. I gave in too. The world tilted. Everything around me began to blur. My hands felt heavy. My heartbeat slowed. I tried to speak, but my tongue would not move. The last thing I saw was Zayan's face slumping onto the table, eyes rolling back, before the darkness swallowed me whole. When I woke up, I was cold. My wrists and ankles were tied. I was lying on a damp concrete floor. Dim light flickered from a hanging bulb above. The air smelled metallic and sweet like rotting meat soaked in herbs. I turned my head and saw Zayan and Daniel tied to nearby poles. Both were out cold. The room was a basement, but not any normal basement. Hooks hung from the ceiling. Some held slabs of flesh. Others held entire bodies, swinging gently. Along one wall was a massive freezer with a cracked door. Inside were labeled containers. Left arm, tender. The, juicy. Kidneys, aged. I gagged. That was when I saw him again. The delivery man. He was no longer in uniform. Now he wore a blood-stained apron and thick black gloves. He stood by a steel table, sharpening a cleaver, humming a slow, tuneless melody. "You are what you eat," he whispered, as if reciting scripture. "That is the secret. That is the truth. You taste better after tasting them." He walked over to Daniel, who had just started to stir. "Wakey, wakey. It is prep time." I thrashed, trying to loosen the ropes. They were old, frayed in some parts. The pipe I was tied to groaned with every movement. He raised the cleaver above Daniel's leg. I screamed. It was enough to make Zayan jolt awake. In that chaos, something snapped. Literally, one of the bolts holding the pipe to the wall gave way. I used all my weight to pull harder. Another bolt snapped. The delivery man turned, confused. "What are you?" That was all he managed before I slammed the pipe across his head. He stumbled back. I hit him again, and again, until his body dropped, twitching, to the floor. Zayan and I untied Daniel and dragged ourselves up the basement stairs. The door was locked, but we found a rusted screwdriver in a drawer and forced it open. We ran, barefoot, bleeding, crying. We flagged down a truck on the highway, and the driver took us straight to the police. But when they returned to the house, it was empty. Same address, same location, but the basement was gone. The walls were clean. The freezer was missing. The house had been abandoned for years, the neighbors said. They had not seen anyone living there for over a decade. No evidence, no DNA, no bodies, nothing. It was like he had never existed. We tried to move on. We went home, stopped talking about it, swore to forget. But a month later, Daniel found something on his porch. A familiar box. A single slice of pizza inside. Perfectly fresh. Still warm. No delivery man. No note. But Zayan got the message a week after. So did I. It kept happening. Every year, on the anniversary of that night, we receive a slice. Always fresh. Always warm. We never eat it, but we still remember the taste. And here is the part I cannot say out loud. The thing that haunts me more than the basement. More than the bodies. More than the freezer full of organs. Even after everything, it was the best pizza I have ever had. And sometimes, when I am alone, I still crave it. There are things on the internet that are not meant to be seen. I used to think I could handle anything online. Gore, conspiracies, even cursed videos, I had seen it all. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened when I typed my parents and names into a dark web search engine. If you are reading this, take this as a warning. Curiosity does not just kill the cat, it drags it into a pit so deep, it forgets what light ever felt like. I did not just find secrets. I found something that broke the last thread tying me to reality. My name is Aaron. I am 22 years old and live alone in a small studio apartment in Dute, Pennsylvania. My parents, Ruth and Daniel, passed away 3 years ago in what was ruled a tragic car accident. It was rainy, the road was slick, and they slid off the highway into a ravine. No foul play, no other vehicles, just an accident. I went into therapy, dealt with the grief, and tried to move on. Still, something about it never sat right with me. There were no photos of the crash site released to me. No coroner's report that I ever saw. Every time I asked, I was told it was sealed due to sensitive content. I had questions, and no one had answers. So last month, I made the worst decision of my life. I joined a few Discord servers that specialize in exploring the dark web. I wanted to find something that could help me understand what really happened. I found a link through an encrypted Tor browser that led me to a search tool. It looked like a stripped-down Google homepage, but with strange symbols in the background that looked like they were flickering. It asked for input any name, place, or phrase. No guarantees, no explanations. I do not know what I expected. Maybe some leaked photos or government files. But I typed in both their full names, Ruth Mary Holloway and Daniel Stephen Holloway. The page flickered once, then again. I was about to close the tab when a new page loaded. There were 3 folders. They were named Footage, Audio, and Reports. My stomach turned. I clicked on Reports first. Inside were scans of documents dated years before the crash. One was a heavily redacted military intelligence file with my father's name, under a project called Babel Rise. Another was a psychiatric evaluation of my mother, referring to something called Subject R2, with notes about memory suppression and experimental behavioral trials. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. None of this made sense. I opened the footage folder next. There were 6 files. Grainy, time-stamped videos with no titles. The first showed a dimly lit room. My mother sat at a metal table, eyes darting back and forth. A voice off camera asked her questions, most of which were inaudible. She kept repeating one phrase, "I do not remember the code. I do not remember the code." She looked terrified. Her hands trembled. I skipped to another video. My father this time, strapped to a chair, his head shaved, wires taped to his temples. He was not struggling, he was laughing. A sick, joyless laugh that sounded rehearsed. Then he screamed a single word, "Fragment." The screen glitched, and the video ended. I closed the browser and backed away from my desk. My heart felt like it was shaking inside my chest. These were not the people who raised me. Or maybe they were, and I just never knew who they really were. That night I had dreams that did not feel like dreams. I saw red rooms, long hallways with fluorescent lights flickering overhead. I saw a child me, maybe standing in the corner of a cold room while my parents argued in a language I did not recognize. I woke up in a cold sweat, my nose bleeding. I stumbled to the bathroom and stared into the mirror. For a moment, I could have sworn my pupils were different sizes. I went back to my laptop, against every instinct. I needed to see the last folder. The audio folder had one file, just one. It was labeled Exit, Message, Way. I clicked it. At first it was just static. Then a voice, my mother's voice, whispering in rhythm. "He does not know. He does not know. We made him forget. But he found the door. He found the door." I slammed the laptop shut and unplugged it from the wall. The next day, my apartment felt wrong. The lights buzzed, louder. The shadows in the corners seemed to twitch. I kept hearing my name spoken softly, just behind me. I checked the vents, the windows, The hallway. Nothing. Around noon I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo, an old one, black and white, of 2 children and a woman. The woman was my mother, but the children were not me. On the back was a message written in red ink. Try again. This time, search yourself. I burned the photo in the sink. That night, I typed my own name into the search bar. It did not return folders this time. It returned a profile. Subject A0. Controlled entity. Phase 3. There was a video below. I should not have clicked it, but I did. The video was of me 6 or 7 years old sitting on a hospital bed. A doctor was asking me questions. I spoke back in a voice that did not sound like mine. It was too slow, too calm. The transcript below labeled me as a host subject. I said things in that video I cannot explain: coordinates, long strings of numbers, foreign dialects. At one point, my father stepped into frame and gave me a toy truck. The transcript labeled that as a memory reinforcer. I watched the whole thing in silence, hands shaking, unable to cry. Everything I knew about my childhood trips to the zoo, school memories, birthdays, none of them felt real anymore. I checked my body in the mirror. My forearms had small circular scars I never questioned before. Were they ports? I do not know. I sat on my bed for hours, trying to breathe, trying to remember anything that felt solid. I deleted the browser, wiped the hard drive, threw the laptop in the dumpster down the street. I could not risk anyone else seeing what I saw. I told myself I would forget, that maybe it was all fake, some sick ARG someone put online. But then I started seeing them. People I had never met staring at me on the street. A man with a black umbrella watching me from the corner every evening, never moving. I moved apartments last week. Different city, new name, no internet. But sometimes, when I pass mirrors, I catch something else standing behind me. Something that looks like my mother. Her eyes do not blink. They just watch. And sometimes I hear her voice whispering the same thing over and over again. You were never born. You were activated. Yesterday I received a package. No postage, no markings. Inside was a small cassette player and a single tape labeled Final Protocol. I played it once. The voice on the tape was mine. Not recent, not aged. It was exactly my voice from that childhood video. The message was short. If you found this, it means they failed to suppress you. The parents were only proxies. Your real activation begins now. You are the door. The tape ejected itself, and the cassette player caught fire without warning. No flames, just instant blackened plastic. I stood there, staring at it, not feeling scared anymore. Just empty. I do not sleep now. I do not dream. I see things behind reality, like static bleeding through the corners of a screen. I think they are waiting. For what? I do not know. But I understand this much. My life was never mine. I was never meant to search their names. But the worst part is, something inside me is glad I did. Some questions do not reveal answers. They awaken something else. Something that has been watching from the dark. I should have never touched that list, not out of fear or superstition. I just never thought something that sounded so stupid would become this real. It all started as a dare from a forum buried 3 layers deep into the dark web. Some anonymous thread with a stupid challenge. Write a name. Make it disappear. Add it to the naughty list. The post was filled with grainy gifs, edgy memes, and over-the-top warnings in blood-red Comic Sans. But I was drunk and pissed off after a fight with my girlfriend, so I did it. I typed her name in and clicked submit, like it was just another throwaway joke. It even said, "She'll be judged accordingly." I snorted. It was supposed to be a joke. The next morning, everything was off. Not wrong, just glitchy. Her texts had typos, and she never made those. Her Bitmoji looked different. Her Spotify rap changed completely. Gone were her favorite Taylor Swift tracks, replaced by ambient static and one artist with a blank profile photo. I called her, and her voice sounded the same at first, but slowed down, like a record playing just a bit too slow. Then she laughed at something I did not say. That laugh, it was hers, but it was dragged, hollow, as if someone was trying to mimic her. She hung up, and my phone would not stop vibrating for hours. No caller ID, just blank texts. One of them said, "Naughty confirmed." I told myself I imagined it, until I went to her apartment. She answered the door, looking like herself, but not quite. Her eyes looked dusty, not red or irritated, just dull, like old porcelain. She hugged me, and I swear, her body felt room temperature, like she had just been pulled out of storage. I sat on her couch, trying to act normal, but she kept asking questions in this strange tone, like she was rehearsing being human. "What are your favorite childhood colors?" she asked, instead of, "What was your favorite color as a kid?" When I showed her a photo of us from our last beach trip, she stared at it for a full minute and then said, "This memory is corrupted." That night I dug back into the forum. The thread was gone, but I remembered the site's format. I dug deeper into archived copies and mirrors. I found references to the naughty list, going back to 2007. Some user named Godmod666 said it was a digital version of something old, pre-internet even. An evaluation ledger meant to keep balance by removing liabilities, people who disrupted their timeline. The more I read, the more names I saw. Some were marked with green, others red, a handful in black. Her name was red. My username, which I used to submit her, was now next to hers, also red. I tried to delete the post, undo the submission, but the page would not load anymore. Instead, my webcam turned on, just for a second. I yanked the cable out and nearly broke it. My screen flashed with one word: denied. After that, things escalated. My girlfriend stopped responding to texts. When I called, I would hear someone else breathing. Once, I heard myself whispering. I visited her place again, and the door was open. She was sitting on the floor, watching static on her television. She turned to me, and in a completely flat voice said, "You do not get to take it back." Then she blinked like a corrupted video, frame eyes half closed, stuttering, twitching. I ran. That night, I saw her standing outside my apartment building. She just stood there, neck tilted, not blinking, staring up at my floor. I stayed up all night with a knife in my hand, but she never came in. In the morning, she was gone. I went to the police. They asked questions. I gave them answers. I showed them the texts. They said I needed help. One officer offered a wellness check for her. 2 days later, they found an empty apartment. Landlord claimed it was never rented. No trace of her, not even in lease records. I checked my phone. Her number was gone. Her photos too. My messages to her now looked like I was texting myself. Then came the mirrors. I would catch glimpses of her in mirrors, windows, turned off screens. She would always be looking away, as if caught mid-turn. One time I blinked, and she was suddenly looking directly at me, wide-eyed, like she had been waiting. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. And then the list updated. I got an email from a dead account. No subject, just a body of text. "Your judgment is pending. Prepare." My reflection started moving out of sync. My voice sounded slightly off when I recorded it. I began hearing whispers behind me, whispering my name, the same way she used to when joking around. Only this time it felt like a warning. I went back to her apartment again. Still empty. I broke in. Inside, it looked like someone had lived there for years and vanished. Furniture covered in sheets, old newspaper dated 3 years ago. I found a picture of us taped to the back of a bathroom mirror, except I was alone in the photo. Just me, with my arm around no one. The file on her laptop had one thing open, a document titled, "We are already in." The contents were redacted, except for one line. "There is no forgiveness, once added to the list. Only replication. Only continuation." I am not sure how much time has passed since then. I think I am forgetting things now. I look in the mirror, and my eyes do not always blink when I want them to. My voice feels like it is coming from a tunnel. I cannot remember my parents' names. My girlfriend's name, the one I wrote down, I cannot remember that either. But I remember the feeling. The second I clicked submit, something behind that screen smiled back at me. I do not think it was the dark web. I think it was older. The web was just the doorway. I let something through. If you are reading this, do not search for the naughty list. Do not even joke about it. I made that mistake, and I am not alone anymore. Every time I close my eyes, she is there, blinking slowly, as if waiting for her turn, and I know soon I will be read too. I have always been a fan of escape rooms, both physical and virtual, but after what happened, I can never look at games the same way again. It started when I stumbled across a bizarre forum while scrolling through late-night creepypasta discussions on the deep web. A thread titled, "The Last Game You'll Ever Play, Exclusive Dark Web Escape, Challenge," caught my eye. I knew I should have clicked away, but my curiosity overpowered my caution. The post was written like a dare. No one's ever completed it. Play at your own risk. Win, and get 10 grand in crypto. Lose, and, well, you won't. Most of the replies were edgy jokes or people pretending to be scared. I followed the link anyway, expecting a poorly coded browser game or a virus. Instead, I was greeted by a sleek black page with a glowing green button in the center that said, "Start Escape." I clicked it. That was my first mistake. My screen flickered, and a loading symbol spun into the shape of an eye. Suddenly, my webcam light turned on its own. I stared at it, frozen. Then a voice crackled through my speakers. Player recognized. Welcome to Escape. I tried to back out, but nothing responded. Not my mouse, not the keyboard, not even Task Manager. The voice continued. To win, escape all 5 rooms. Fail a room, and the game escapes you. I laughed nervously, thinking it was some ARG with a good production team. The screen changed. Room 1 appeared. It was a dark hallway rendered in hyper-realistic 3D. The detail was insane, from the flickering fluorescent lights to the grime on the floor tiles. I heard footsteps, my own in-game avatar breathing, even the hum of the electricity overhead. The objective said, "Find the key before the door closes forever." The countdown started. 2 minutes. I navigated the space with my arrow keys, checking under broken floor tiles and inside lockers. Everything felt too real. My hands started sweating. The key was inside a vent. I grabbed it just as the door began to shut. Sprinting, I slid under and made it through. Room 1 cleared, the voice said, but it sounded different now. Less robotic, more human, like someone was trying to mask their real tone. Room 2 loaded. This one was a child's bedroom, dimly lit by a lava lamp. Creepy lullaby music played in the background. A teddy bear on the bed whispered, "Do not wake her up." In the corner, a pale, sleeping girl sat in a rocking chair, her back to me, gently rocking. The objective, find the code to the door. Do not make a sound. I tapped my keys slower now, inching toward the desk. Every sound was amplified. The floor creaked under my virtual feet, until the lamp buzzed. My pulse was racing. Inside the drawer was a crumpled note. She remembers birthdays. I scanned the room. A calendar on the wall had one date circled in red, the 12th of August. I tiptoed to the keypad near the door and entered 0812. Beep. Green light. The door opened. Just before I stepped out, the girl's head jerked toward me. Her face was blank. No eyes, no mouth, just skin. She began to rise. Room 2 cleared. The voice cut in. The girl froze mid-step. The screen turned black. I sat back, heart pounding. "Okay," I muttered. "This is messed up." And end, and end, and end 12, and 12, and end, and 12, and 12. I reached to unplug the computer, but nothing would shut it down. My screen loaded room 3, a hospital hallway, blood-stained, fluorescent lights blinking wildly. The objective, help the patient, but he lies. I moved forward and saw a man strapped to a gurney. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He screamed, "They cut me open. Help me. Please. Untie me." A clipboard beside him read, "Do not trust the subject. Patient 088 has manipulative delusions. Do not release." I hovered near the gurney, unsure. The patient began crying, shaking. "You're real," he whispered. "Please. They are watching me through the mirrors." I glanced around. Every reflective surface in the room, surgical trays, of broken shards had no reflection of me, only the man. I left him tied up and went searching. In a nearby room, I found a blood-stained nurse's uniform and a keycard in its pocket. When I returned to the gurney, the man was gone. Only a blood trail remained, leading to a vent. "Room 3 cleared," the voice said, now laughing faintly at the end. This time I did not relax. Room 4 began with no warning, no load screen, just a sudden, jarring shift. It was my own bedroom, digitally recreated in perfect, terrifying detail, down to the half-full mug of tea on my desk, the hoodie hanging on my chair, even the scratch on the wall where I had bumped into it last week. The objective, find the intruder. I spun my avatar around. Everything was normal until the webcam light turned on again, this time mirrored in the in-game screen. My in-game self was looking at me, and behind me, someone was standing. I whipped around in real life. Nothing. When I turned back, the figure was gone both in the game and in my room. I began to shake. I clicked every part of the room. Finally, under the bed, a single line of text appeared. "He is in the mirror." I turned toward my own screen again. In the in-game reflection, there was someone standing behind my avatar, a tall, featureless black shape. "Room 4 cleared," said the voice, now whispering directly in my ear. I felt breath on my neck. I screamed and slapped at the air. Nothing was there. The screen went black. Then room 5 appeared. No title, just a message. "The final escape is real." This time, the game showed live footage of my actual hallway from a camera that should not exist. I panicked, leaping up, opening the door, but no one was there. I ran to my router and yanked out every cable. The screen stayed on. "You cannot escape," the voice hissed. I heard knocking, on my screen, on my walls, on my windows, all at once. I picked up my phone, no signal. The final room objective displayed in blood-red text: "To escape, sacrifice your past." My cursor began to move on its own, opening folders on my computer. Photos, old journals, childhood videos, all began deleting themselves. My memories wiped before my eyes. Then the screen showed a countdown. 10, 9, 8. I screamed for it to stop. At 0, everything went black. Not just the game, my entire screen. Then a single word appeared: escaped. The power in my apartment surged. Lights flickered. When everything stabilized, my desktop was empty. All files, all folders, wiped. My web browser history, wiped. Even my backup drive gone. I tried to post online, explain what happened, but every upload failed. Every message I sent disappeared. That was 3 days ago. Since then, strange things have been happening. Every reflective surface now shows a room I do not recognize. Sometimes, I catch glimpses of myself staring back with a different expression than the print one I am making. I sleep with all the mirrors covered now. But worse, sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear the voice whispering again. Room 6 begins now. I do not know if I ever really escaped, or if I am just in another level. If you see a link on the dark web offering a new escape game, do not click. The only thing you might escape is yourself.